Pure breeding dogs is evil. In general, the practice of modern dog breeding is largely unethical. And I think that it's really easy to make a case that a great deal of individual dog breeds are immoral and evil to produce and sell. I've wanted to do a rant about how much I hate modern dog culture for a while now. I really hate the way people treat their dogs on social media. It bothers me a lot. I realize this isn't a radical news statement. This isn't gonna be a hot take like my usual content. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen that sketch done by Adam Ruins Everything.
Mutts are dogs in their natural healthy states, and pure breeding is a form of genetic manipulation humans made up just to amuse ourselves. Outside of a few traditional working dogs, 90% of all dog breeds were created in just the last 100 years.
Adam made a lot of really good points about the engineering of dog breeds and how recent a phenomenon it is to have so many different kinds of dog to choose from on the market.
100 years ago, the bulldog was a proud breed, but a century of inbreeding has ruined them. Their noses are so squashed, they can barely breathe. Their heads are so big, they can only give birth by cesarean section. Their tails can become ingrown. They basically all have hip dysplasia, and their average life expectancy is 6 years. Let's face it, these dogs shouldn't even be alive.
I know that I've dogged on the guy a few times. His videos are really made more for entertainment, and I find that his style of comedy tends to be a little bit too antagonistic to really get his points across. Maybe even a little bit petty.
I usually go for alpha males.
So to say that this guy is an alpha male or that guy's a beta male makes straight up 0 sense.
Okay. Keep telling yourself that, bud. Here, I'd like to really just expand on some of the ideas that he brought up in his video, because the unethical production of these dog breeds brings up a lot of other moral and social implications that I really think need to be discussed. I love dogs. I had a beautiful mutt named Dondi growing up. Most kids want a dog, and it's a beautiful way for a family to learn to bond together. The tradition of dog ownership is very ancient. We've been integrating dogs, wolves, foxes, and other similar animals into our families and tribes for eons. It's very normal to love dogs, and it can be a very beautiful thing to want to own and love your own dog. But what is important are the choices that we make. This video is not at all designed to dissuade you from getting a dog of your own in the future. And I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. You're not a bad person for loving the dogs that you own. All dogs deserve to be loved, including all of the terrible breeds I'm about to list in this video. But if I can make one suggestion in this video, if you're going to get a dog in the future, please do not get your dog from a breeder. Instead, go to a local shelter or a humane society and adopt a dog in need. And if you own a dog or a cat or an animal of any kind, spay and neuter it. I feel kind of awkward even bringing this up, but I think that in the near future, it's going to be a lot harder for people to be able to afford to own their own animals. So please just stop breeding cats and dogs. Stop. I think the most important point that Adam brought up in his video about pure breeding is that most dog breeds were created by Victorian-era aristocrats as an expression of their new fascination with eugenics.
When species breed in the wild, they can exist in large populations and can mate randomly. This ensures a nice, healthy distribution of genetic variation. But when humans started pure breeding dogs, we had them mate over and over again with their relatives to get a specific look. When we artificially limited the gene pool in that way, we created a genetic bottleneck. As the same small gene pool is spread between more and more dogs, diseases that would normally be rare become inevitable.
Dog breeds have likely always existed for as long as we've had dogs living with us. There are countless examples of different kinds of working dog throughout history. But I can pretty much guarantee that every single dog breed that you've heard of dates back to the 19th century.
In 19th century Victorian England, eugenics was all the rage and competitive dog breeding became a fad among the wealthy.
I made a dog with really loose skin.
Well, I made one with a super flat, f***ed up face.
The idea of a dog existing for a purpose already existed, but now all of a sudden people decided arbitrarily that the way the dog looks also must be an aspect of their function. And it makes no sense.
Once these Dr. Frankensteins were satisfied, they'd dub their little monsters pure breeds and use kennel clubs to enforce their bizarre standards.
A corgi is 10 to 12 inches tall with a foxy head, wide flat skull, and non-sly expression. So if your dog looks sly, it's a poser freak, and it's out of the club.
That's all a corgi really is, an arbitrary definition made up by a weirdo.
It was an entirely narcissistic and selfish decision to do this, and the continued practice of dog breeding is animal abuse. The breeding of dogs in order to appease a desired visual aesthetic is animal abuse. They torture dogs by forcing them into a confined physiology, cursing them to a lifetime of stumbling, failing, and suffering to breathe, all so they can make their little eyeballs happy. That's dog breeding. Overbreeding has completely destroyed the genome of most dog breeds. A lot of the most popular breeds look like saggy, sad, ugly, misshapen versions of their former glorious selves. Look at the pain in this bulldog's eyes and tell me that he's happy that you've so narcissistically insisted on the continuation of his lineage. Bold and brave. Purebred means inbred. There's almost no way to create a purebred dog that appeases the masters of dog breeding, that allows you to mix in other dog breeds. You basically have to choose another dog that has the same ancestors or the same family as the dog that you're trying to breed. Some of the earliest versions of these dog breeds used to look so healthy and beautiful because they were new. Bulldogs and bull terriers, for example, used to be really strong and athletic. Now they're front heavy and malformed. Bulldogs can barely even breathe. Like, have you seen a bulldog walk? It's like it's struggling just to exist.
She's too tired, too hot, and she's breathing like this. And it feels like the death throes of like, and she's willing to go on and on, but I'm worried about it.
And sure, you can say that there are a lot of breeds that on average actually look more beautiful and even cuter than they used to. But it's not good for the dog that we're doing this. It's not healthy that we're insisting on manipulating the dog's genome in order to fit a visual aesthetic. Even the most beautiful breeds still suffer from genetic issues. I mean, think about it, like those breeds that are more dopey and docile, they're intentionally making the dog stupider, and we're just fine with that because it makes us happy to have a big dumb dog around. Or like a German Shepherd, one of the proudest breeds that we flaunt around in our society. You see them everywhere, the police, the military. They're supposed to be really athletic, really strong, really sharp and smart and loyal, which is why they're great working dogs. I bet you didn't know that most German Shepherds that you see doing those jobs are below the age of 6. And by the time they reach the age of 8, their hips completely go out. Most German Shepherds spend the last third of their life barely able to move their rear legs. I think we'd all like to believe that when we see a working dog, that one day they're gonna be released and retired from their position and then they'll get to run off on a farm somewhere. But not German Shepherds. Their version of retirement is sitting on a cushion with a diaper. And then there's Great Danes. You're lucky if they even live to be 8 years old. Usually the larger you breed a dog, the shorter its lifespan. But I think maybe the most egregious example of evil manipulative breeding is when people intentionally breed in baby-like features to the dog, intentionally crippling and stunting the dog's ability to be a dog simply because it makes people happy to have a cute little vulnerable dependent baby around. And you don't ever really see an owner of a dog like that treating that small dog like a gentleman, like a grown-ass man. No, they infantilize that dog, force it into the role of being a baby. Here, I shove you in my fucking purse, idiot. Don't piss on my Gucci sunglasses, idiot. Intentionally stunting an animal's growth by breeding in baby-like features and making it impossible for it to grow into its virile, strong, adult, mature self is psychotic. Imagine you were kept as a baby forever and mocked and ridiculed every time you stumbled and failed. This video is gonna come off very Anakin Skywalker-y. They never listen. Then there are dog breeds that are very clearly unethical to breed, simply by the very fact that they couldn't exist in the wild. I hate French bulldogs for that reason. They're a cute dog, they're fun to have around, but what are you thinking buying a French bulldog? French bulldogs are among a series of miniature breeds that are incapable of giving natural birth. They have to give birth through cesarean surgery. Who thought of that? I would think that when you come across that problem in the breeding process, you go back to the drawing board and try again. But no, they're just like, oh, we can live with this. We'll just do this forever. That's disgusting. All dogs with short snouts and stubby noses suffer from a wide range of issues, not just breathing, and not just that their bite is really weak. A dog's snout is really important. Being born without a snout would be like being born without part of your lungs, or maybe with your fingers only half grown. Pugs are another one of these breeds that simply cannot breathe at all. If you hear a dog snorting or snoring, it's because they can't breathe. They probably suffer from a wide range of breathing issues like sleep apnea.
They've been bred specifically to look like they've been smashed in the goddamn face with a frying pan. Because of their fact that their skull is shaped like a fucking tuna can, they can barely breathe their whole lives. Constantly, no matter the temperature or the weather, they sit there going, gah, 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 gah. And people think this shit is cute.
But pugs especially are infamous for dying of heat exhaustion. Without their snout and an efficient way to breathe, they can't dissipate the heat from their body efficiently enough, so they suffer from overheating.
Pug's desirable double curl tail is actually a genetic defect that results from their spinal deformity. It often causes back pain and can even lead to back leg paralysis.
Pugs are everywhere too. Pug owners are relentless about it. I used to live in a neighborhood where a bunch of pug owners would meet up on the street sometimes. It's like pugs have been integrated into the masonry of society or something. They're gross. Just stop breeding pugs. Quit it. Then there are the miniature and teacup breeds. Do I need to explain why it's evil to force an animal to suffer a life fearing that a stiff breeze can take them out? Look how pathetic he is. He's always shaking and squinting. They often suffer from anxiety issues. His grandfather was a fierce, proud hunter, but you chose to humiliate him simply so you could have a cute widow baby around. Then there's Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas are a total lie. A Chihuahua has never one time led me to a Taco Bell. But the most absurd part of all of this pure breeding stuff is that all of these individual dog breeds are supposed to serve a specific purpose that only they are best at. Like, I think maybe somebody one day noticed that terrier types are a lot more aggressive and wiry and really good at hunting pests. So someone came along and decided to breed a whole bunch of different kinds of terriers that chase a bunch of different pests. I've caught a couple of episodes of one of those best in breed shows that they do, and I always end up laughing every time the announcer describes the purpose for each dog, like the specific jobs that each dog was bred to fulfill. Like one time they said that there's this one dog that's bred specifically to guard the boudoir of a master's mistress and protect her from rats while she's alone in her room. And it looks like this. And it can only look like that. Otherwise, it's not that mistress boudoir rat dog. So you better get it right. Like, why? What the hell even is that? I know that these things sound like a joke, but they're 100% serious when they say shit like that. They mean it. To dog breeders, this is real life. And those arbitrary purposes upon which they force a dog to embody are dead ass real. And they genuinely believe that because they've made that choice, this dog now deserves to spend the rest of its life fighting rats for some hoe. If you look this shit up on Wikipedia today, you'll notice that a lot of dog breeds started off with a job purpose, but then they'll note at some point in their history, the breeders and owners of these dogs eventually wanted to keep them in their homes to entertain their kids and love their families. And then after a period of time, that's all they were anymore. The image of an arbitrary purpose relegated to spending a lifetime crammed in someone's handbag. Especially terrifying, there are a handful of breeds where their skulls are too small to contain their brain. Their heads are too small. The breeders were so obsessed with maintaining teacup tiny baby or streamlined features, they didn't care what it actually meant for the experience of the dog itself. They didn't care if the dog's physiology could handle its cartoonish proportions. There are these bizarre behavioral issues that are unique to spaniels. One day, their personality just totally changes. And all of a sudden, overnight, they'll start to become violent and neurotic. And it's a sad thing to witness, especially when you can vividly remember the time when the dog used to be sweet and loving. There's a lot that we can derive from humanity's selfish decision to create specific breeds. Choosing a dog's entire purpose and the quality of their existence before they're even born. Engineering its features to satisfy our preferences for what makes us happy, for what qualities we choose to see in a dog's cuteness, athleticism, and intelligence, and then denying that dog's uniqueness in its own desires to fulfill its canine needs, forcing it to fulfill a specific role, and then only rewarding it when it operates based on our desires for what we think it should do, only rewarding it when it behaves the way we chose that it should behave. That's not really too far off from how institutions treat us in society. Think about it. You're born with stubby little legs, a weak little frame, a short, useless bite. You can't breathe, you can't sleep. You're not even capable of forming a powerful bark with your voice. And then you're constantly gaslit into embodying the presence of a baby. You're infantilized relentlessly. And then anytime you try to run, jump, yell, or do any normal thing that a dog would want to do, you fail because your useless physiology makes it impossible. But instead of receiving sympathy or empathy from your owners or the people in your environment, you're mocked and ridiculed for being a silly little baby. You're never celebrated or encouraged for the qualities that you wish you had, and instead you're only really appreciated for the qualities that are, in fact, a curse. Imagine living a life where you're never recognized for who you really are inside. The way people mock dogs is really horrendous when you think about it. A lot of dog humor in general is just really bad taste, in my opinion. 90% of dog humor is just mocking the dog for failing or being stupid. People are really just mocking dogs for being dumb and doing dumb things. If that's how dogs were naturally, it would be one thing to laugh at their silly behavior, but they act silly because we bred them that way. I challenge you to scroll through dog humor videos on social media and try to find some that aren't just mocking the dog for being dumb. Maybe I've just developed a sensitivity to this kind of low vibrational humor, I don't know, but it just doesn't hit for me. Those dogs did not choose to be born with diminished intelligence and stumpy features. You were the one that chose that. You were the one that chose to buy the dog that embodied those features because you wanted to have a permanent baby around your home. Indirectly, you were the one that bred that dog with those features. By demanding that that dog be bred so that you could purchase it, you just encouraged that breeder to do that again. And again, and again. You were the one that chose to breed that dog with those handicaps. So the worst thing that you could possibly do is take pleasure in mocking and ridiculing that dog for that handicap. Thank you so much to my channel members and my patrons for supporting my work. I could not do this without you. You guys are amazing. You're putting food on my table. I love you so much. My History is a Lie series is my pride and joy, absolute favorite work I've done on this channel. Check that out if you'd like some fun historical enigmas to blow your mind. And I've got a newer series about the evils of the mainstream media designed to break you out of the matrix. Really important stuff. I appreciate you watching my rant, and I'll see you next time.